Enough is enough. According to Mercedes drivers Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, the FIA must act against the bouncing of the 2022 cars, something that particularly affects Mercedes. In Baku, the Mercedes are bouncing in all directions again, but the Ferraris are also affected remarkably, and there are more teams like that, says Russell. According to the Brit and colleague Hamilton, it is even so bad that a number of drivers have already raised the alarm with the FIA. They believe that the bouncing is quite dangerous in several respects. Hamilton, it's starting to become a safety issue. Listen to the 7-time world champion, and it's clear how much impact the bounce has on everything. Starting with the view, which is quite disturbed by how fast the drivers go up and down in the cockpit, but it goes beyond that. Keeping that thing out of the wall, he refers to his F1 car, is quite a task. Earlier this year, Mercedes had a lot of problems with porpoising, where the aerodynamic effect suction of the floor causes bouncing. Although it seemed that they had solved that in Barcelona, since then in Monaco and Baku, however, they struggled with the car that lies so low on the bumpy asphalt that it touches the ground and then starts to bounce. It's very painful, Russell says. You're being shaken to pieces. Because of all the bouncing, you can hardly see where to brake. He also points out it's only a matter of time, Russell suspects, until it leads to an incident. We can barely keep the car on the track, even in a straight line. He sounds the alarm again. Like Russell, Hamilton also mentions that the drivers will not physically make it to the end like this. It hurt me so much on Friday that I couldn't even finish my long run. My back was just too painful. Thank goodness for my physiotherapist Angela, who gives me physiotherapy and acupuncture every night, but I still woke up this morning in pain. It can't go on like this for another 4 years with these cars? Hamilton wonders aloud and puts the ball to the FIA as regulator. I think all drivers have already spoken out about it. Hamilton ends. Christian Horner, whose Red Bull team has experienced much less porpoising this year, is suspicious that Mercedes might be making it out to be a bigger issue than it really is. Asked what he would do if it were his team suffering so much, he replied, "Tell them to complain as much as they could over the radio and make as big an issue out of it as it possibly could." Asked if he felt this is what Mercedes were doing, he elaborated, "Of course it is. Look, it is uncomfortable, but there are remedies to that, but it is detrimental to the car performance. What is the easiest thing to do? Complain from a safety point of view, but each team has a choice. If it was a genuine safety concern across the whole grid, then it's something that should be looked at, but if it's only affecting isolated people or teams, then that is something what the team should potentially deal with." The Englishman sees the teams such as Mercedes hope the FIA will help them solve this bouncing, but that'll be unfair for others. The easiest way to solve this problem is by leveling the right height, Horner said. When asked about his view on the words of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, the team has the choice to do that. He emphasizes if a team does not do this, it is the responsibility of the team itself. Horner mainly blames the team for Hamilton and Russell expressing themselves so firmly about the problem. He thinks they're being instructed to speak up about it on a regular basis in order to increase political pressure. That's all part of the game, Horner says. The International Motorsport Federation (FIA) seems to be responding to Mercedes' cry for help to tackle the problem surrounding porpoising. An investigation is being launched to get to the bottom of the matter, and this is something Red Bull will not tolerate. Mercedes has long complained about the bounce of the cars on the different tracks in the streets of Baku. This was the worst ever, which was reflected in Lewis Hamilton's body language afterwards. The 7-time world champion had to be lifted from his W13 with the help of Mercedes personnel. The Briton complained afterwards about a sore back, and it was even suggested that he will not be able to participate in the Canadian Grand Prix. They want the FIA to tackle porpoising, and they seem to find support in this with the Motorsport Association. The FIA wants to start a major investigation. The Motorsport Association wants to start an investigation to get to the bottom of the matter, but the FIA is meeting resistance from the other teams and drivers. There's reportedly little support for a rule change to solve porpoising. The FIA is trying to talk to the drivers and technical directors. Nobody takes a step back voluntarily. Giving 10 millimeters more freedom to the floor costs several points of downforce, and nobody wants to give this up. Horner expects a fair treatment. The fact that Red Bull is relatively unaffected by it means that it saves time. They found that time themselves by eliminating porpoising. He doesn't seem to be interested in the fact that this Mercedes cannot succeed. I think this is a topic for the technical men. There are certain cars that have this problem enormously and cars that are less bothered by it. I think it's unfair to penalize the teams that have managed to get rid of this reasonably well compared to the teams that don't manage to get rid of it, he ends. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button to not miss any F1 news.